every single broker, every single realtor association, every MLS, and I think every franchise in Missouri is a unnamed co-conspirator in the lawsuit. Why is that relevant? Because it turns out if you're an unnamed co-conspirator, the plaintiffs can add you to the lawsuit at any time.
Oh.
Not only that, but they could not add you, go win the lawsuit. Like, hey, we won this judgment for $6 billion. Now we're going to go sue Compass. Now we're going to go sue EXP. We're going to now go sue some 100-person brokerage in Springfield, Missouri, because we've already identified them as a co-conspirator. And I don't think people have any clue that that is even a possibility.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Real Estate Replay. How we've made it this far without anyone in the industry telling us to stop talking, I have no idea. But this season is better than the other two because not only are we sharing buyer and seller experiences, but we're breaking down how all of these companies are making money off of you during the process. Learn what buyers and sellers did wrong, how they were misled by the industry, and how you can avoid all of these red flags to make the best decisions when buying or selling a home. While today's episode isn't a specific buyer or seller story, it is a story that impacts anyone who has sold their home through March 2015 all the way till the end of December 2020 in at least 20 different cities. So what am I talking about? If you weren't aware, back in March of this year, a judge ruled to certify a class action lawsuit, which will be the biggest lawsuit to ever go up against the Association of Realtors, 4 major brokerages, and 20 MLSs. This lawsuit has been working its way through the court system and is essentially called the Merrill case. But I'm going to tell you a side note. I'm probably going to call it the Mueller case at some point in this recording. I can't help it. The L and the R just seem like they should be flipped to me. But this is only one of 3 cases currently going through the system that could cause billions and billions and billions of dollars in damages to the Association of Realtors, major brokerages, and MLSs throughout the U.S. But when I first found out about this certification, essentially meaning it's legit and going to trial, I couldn't believe how many people, especially real estate agents, didn't know about it or didn't even understand how big it is. Knowing the lack of education and information that is out there, I wanted to talk with my friend Rob Hahn about this case so that everyone has an idea of not only how big it is, but what the future looks like if this case is successful. So Rob's the co-founder of Decentre Property Exchange, which is a marketplace that was created to empower real estate consumers and their professionals through transparency, efficiency, and decentralization, which are all my favorite things. He's also the managing partner of 7DS, a strategy consulting firm in the real estate industry, and they work with some of the largest and smallest companies in real estate, as long as they're open to real change based on reality, instead of pretty lies that make them feel good about themselves as they head towards oblivion, which I can think of quite a few companies that sit in that position as we speak.
And that's kind of the theme of this podcast, I think, is pretty lies as we're heading towards oblivion.
Exactly. It's like that meme. Everything's fine, but the whole house is on fire. But not to mention that Rob is a graduate of NYU School of Law, specializing in not only corporate law, but international bankruptcy, which could come into play through this lawsuit, depending on how much money gets paid out if successful.
Yep.
Okay. So Rob, just to start it off, I love to say, explain this to me like I were 5.
Sure.
Or if I were in middle school.
Sure.
So, I mean, this case involves all the big players.
Yes.
20 different cities, essentially.
Yes.
And the Association of Realtors. So what is this case about?
So first of all, thank you for the opportunity. This is fun. And this, it's funny, is like, this is almost like a practice run for a webinar I've got planned around this. So first of all, there are 3 lawsuits, 3 major ones left now. All right. There's Sitzer/Burnett. It's been renamed, out of Missouri. There's Merle, which is the big one. That's in Illinois, and that's covering the 20 different markets. And there's a case called Noselec, which is up in Massachusetts, in the Boston area. So those are the 3. I think Merle's the one that gets everyone's attention because it's the biggest, but I'm like, Sitzer's going first. So Sitzer is going to trial in October, and they're all the same cases. So we could, it's all the same things that's going to apply. Fundamentally, what it is the plaintiffs are claiming that NAR has this rule or a set of rules. There's various MLS rules, handbook provisions, code of ethics provisions that collectively they've been calling, I think it's the buyer commission rule or something along those lines. And essentially the claim is that NAR through the MLSs force the seller to pay the buyer agent's commission. And that keeps commission rates really high. So in the US, the average now is about 5%, but it used to be 6%. That's what everyone talks about, versus other Western, developed economies where it's more like 2%. And they're claiming that it's because of this mandatory, offer of compensation through the MLS and all the complicated stuff around it. So that's essentially what the case is about. And the plaintiffs would like a lot of money because what they're saying is if it weren't for this scheme, right, where I'm forced to offer compensation to the buyer agent, I would never have paid it, right? So instead of me paying 6%, I would only pay 3%, right? Mm-hmm. That's one. And then the second one is they're saying we want an injunction to stop this from happening again. So they want the court to say this whole scheme of the seller paying the buyer agent is illegal under Sherman Antitrust Act. So please get rid of it. And by the way, we've been damaged. So please give us an ass load of money. I mean, it's insane the amount of money that's involved. That's what it's about.
Right. And we're talking, I'm more familiar with the biggest case than
the Merle case. Yeah.
Yeah. So I always want to say Moeller. Am I always saying it wrong, right?
I know. I don't even know if Merle's the right way, but it's spelled Moehrl. So how would you say that?
I always say Moeller. I don't know.
Okay.
It's like I'm talking about my teeth. I don't know. I have no idea.
Miller.
Okay. So that big one alone, they're looking at 2015 to 2020, right? Correct. March 2015 to the end of 2020.
I believe so, yes.
And I know there are a ton of numbers floating around, and I may or may not have asked someone I know who is pretty well versed on the case what they think the number could be.
Yep.
To which it was a very lawyer response, like nobody should estimate that because we don't know. But in your own personal opinion, because I know you've written about this, and I know reports came out diminishing how much this could cost, but you did the math on this. So what does this look like in regards to a settlement fee if it wins? Just in a personal opinion. All of this is opinion. I'm not a lawyer. And I only speak, I just need to say, I only speak for myself.
Yeah.
I have friends.
And I need to say the same thing. Like I'm a retired lawyer. I'm not your lawyer. I'm not an antitrust specialist. I'm not a litigator. Please go ask your attorney.
Right.
My computation originally was that Merle is 195 billion.
Wow.
But since then, I've had to revise it a couple of times because they have this real complicated formula, et cetera. And it's like 1.55% of the sale price. No, it's the commissions paid with rates over 1.55%. minus 1.55% of the sale price. But so essentially what the Merle claim is that in some cases, even if you didn't have to pay the buyer agent, some sellers would have elected to pay them something so that they're just talking about the overpayment amount. And I think in the brief, they were mentioning something like, I want to say it was like 42 billion. Okay. I think that's like the bottom edge. So, it could be, here's the thing. Once you go over a certain number of billions, it doesn't matter if it's 40 billion or 100 billion. Like everyone's bankrupt, no one can pay it anyway. So, what difference does it make? But we're talking tens of billions for
a lot of money. And what's interesting to me, and again, I speak only for myself. Mm-hmm. I get the impression that the people in this case, their main goal is to uncouple these commissions. So even going outside of the trial to, come to some sort of an agreement, I think they would be very hard pressed to agree to anything that didn't uncouple these commissions. Like obviously money is important to them. They've been working on this since 2019. I'm sure they all want paid, and I'm sure it's a giant retainer or fee or whatever it is. But
it's going to be like 35%, 40% of the recovered amount. So the lawyers are going to be billionaires. I mean, it's enormous amount of money. Yeah.
Right. It's a good time to be a lawyer, I guess. And this is, I should mention too, because when I posted about this on TikTok, everyone kept asking me, how do you get involved? But I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, an opt-in. So essentially they will contact you if you are a part of this case. From what the lawyer told me, you will get something in the mail. that would alert you if you're involved, correct? Okay.
Sort of. I mean, it's like a lot of these class action cases. I don't know if you've ever gotten those mailers. Like, turns out because I used Comcast or something, there was a big class action settlement over something or another. So here's a coupon for, $10 off your next bill or some crap like that. Meanwhile, the lawyers are taking home, $40 million.
Ton of money.
It is. So it's, some things happen. You don't have to do a thing. The class action means if you sold a home from March of 2015 to end of 2020, you're probably going to get some sort of letter saying, hey, we have this settlement or we have this judgment. So if you want, opt in. If you don't, the issue is if you opt out, then you have to go hire your own lawyer and bring your own lawsuit, and nobody's going to do that.
Right. And if you opt in, I'm just totally making this up. You'll get like $10 if they win. I'm just making that up. I have no idea.
We have no idea.
Correct. But it's not, you're not getting billions. One person's not getting $1 billion. Correct. No. Yeah. And what's interesting is, assuming they don't decide to settle out of court, if they go to court, I think you pointed this out, it would be a jury trial, correct?
Yes. Which
we know the opinions and perception of real estate agents doesn't rank very highly, right? I think they're right above car salesmen.
Yeah, correct? I mean, it's beyond that. So I mentioned this in a number of things. Like, look, it's going to be a jury trial. It's a civil jury, which means 6 people. And the lawyers have this thing called voir dire, right? Which they could reject people off the jury. So the way I look at it is, it's not like the plaintiff's lawyers are morons, right? Mm-hmm. If you're a realtor, you have a realtor in the family, you're not allowed on the jury. Period. End of story. Like, it doesn't go with the questions. Are you a realtor? Yes. Okay, get out.
Right.
Is your wife
on the
a realtor?
State Commission board? You're out.
It's like, so it's going to be. And just think about who serves on juries, right? It's going to be just half a dozen regular, normal Americans. Some retirees, some school teacher, something. And the plaintiff's case is very simple, right? It's an emotional. It's like, hey, you got ripped off by all these big giant corporations. The defense case is really complicated. As well, you see, the MLS actually promotes competition, and this is good, and it just gets really complicated. Good luck. Is all.
And it's interesting too, because in my opinion, and in how I've been educating consumers a lot, still don't even understand how real estate agents get paid, or how that commission gets broken up too. So it's already going to be a process for people to understand what happened to begin with.
That's
so
right.
I mean, I could be on I guess I probably wouldn't be selected.
You would not be selected.
They'll take one look at my TikTok channel and be like, nope.
The defense would exercise their ejection and be like,
yes.
Nope. Yeah.
I'm sure I'm on NAR's list somewhere, which brings me to my next point. Why is nobody talking about this? Because it feels like The Crown, where like everyone in the royal family never complain, never explain. And I almost feel like that's kind of NAR's stance. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But it's a big deal. So why, in your opinion, because this is all just opinion BS from us, and you know what everyone says about opinions, everyone's got one. Why aren't they treating this more from an educational standpoint?
So I've complained about this now for about 3 years, right? Like, why aren't you talking about this? Why aren't you doing? And I think it largely has to do with the fact that if the plaintiff's win is such an apocalyptic outcome, that I think NAR doesn't want to panic the troops, if you will. If they started going out and really talking about some of the consequences of this, I think it could paralyze people. It could make them react in unpredictable ways. So I think NAR's, and again, I'm just completely guessing now, right? They're saying we're going to win. We're right on the law. We're on the facts. They have to say that. If they say we're going to lose, I mean, just think about like the average agent all of a sudden being told, you're not going to get paid buyer commissions anymore. Like, think about the panic and the freak out that would happen. And I think they're just trying to avoid that.
Right. That makes sense.
That's my only guess. I mean, what doesn't make sense to me, and the reason why I'm doing the webinar where I'm doing all this is, okay, fine. I get it for like your average rank and file realtor. But why you're not doing this for like presidents of state associations and MLS CEOs and major brokerage leadership? That I don't understand.
Right. And I have to tell you, your webinar is July 10th, right?
July 10th.
July 10th, which everyone should be signing up for. And I'm glad you did, because I even sent you a TikTok.
Yeah.
Here's what's happening now, because Nobody's talking about it. There are two random real estate agents. One's a broker and one isn't. I don't even remember. Neither one of them have law degrees. They're hosting webinars about this to educate you and how to make it work for you. And they're charging for it. And I'm like, well, A, that's very one-sided. B, they don't have any law degrees to understand what this looks like. And so I'm fascinated for your webinar because
here's the, like, I'm charging for it too, because I spent a lot of time putting this together, but here's the difference, right? They're approaching this as, okay, let's say this happens. Here's how you go about taking advantage, here are the opportunities. So I'm like, look, I kind of get it. And for the agent audience, I think it makes perfect sense because agents are not getting sued. Agents aren't going to be paying whatever, right? My thing is, before we get there, let's just deal with let's just throw this out, all right? So here's my computation for damages from Sitzer, not Merle, Sitzer, right? It will range from between $6 billion and $13 billion.
Wow. Okay, and that's the smaller one.
That's the smaller. That's just the state of Missouri. Okay. Say you lose that. The brokerages that have been sued, so the defendants are NAR, Keller Williams, Remax, Realogy, and Home Services.
Which is like all the big players. I think people forget that, like Century 21, Better Homes.
Yeah, exactly. But it doesn't include EXP. It doesn't include Compass. So it's those.
How did they get out of that, by the way?
They just weren't sued.
EXP.
Oh, they're not out of it. Nobody's out of it. This is one of the missing things. Nobody's out of it. It's just that those 5 are named defendants.
Okay.
I'm just saying, so say you lose that. They can't pay $6 billion in damages.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, so start from that first. And I'm saying, okay, as a brokerage, right? Let's just say it's on the low end. It's just $6 billion. Okay. No one has $6 billion to pay. So it will immediately get appealed. And there's some other legal issues around that. My thing is, all right. So everyone in Missouri, because if you're not one of those 5, I think not everyone, a lot of them just ignoring it. It's like, okay, well, this lawsuit's happening. And if they lose, like, okay, well, too bad. But what do I have to do? I have to prepare my agents for this post-commission world. And that's how they're thinking. I'm sitting here like, you don't understand. Every single broker, every single realtor association, every MLS, and I think every franchise in Missouri is a unnamed co-conspirator in the lawsuit. Why is that relevant? Because it turns out if you're an unnamed co-conspirator, the plaintiffs can add you to the lawsuit at any time.
Oh.
Not only that, but they could not add you, go win the lawsuit. Like, hey, we won this judgment for $6 billion. Now we're going to go sue Compass. Now we're going to go sue EXP. We're going to now go sue some 100-person brokerage in Springfield, Missouri, because we've already identified them as a co-conspirator. And I don't think people have any clue that that is even a possibility. Right. So now you're some random 100-person broker in Springfield. You now owe $6 billion because that's the damages. And that's the other thing people don't understand. There's a concept called joint and several liability, so anyway, like, I'm just sitting here like, how is it that you're not even telling people this is a possibility, right? So before you get to thinking about how do I train my agents to do exclusive buyer agency agreements and negotiate and prove their value? Okay, that's all great. The first step though, if you're a broker, you have to think, can I survive this lawsuit? That's the first step. And people are not even talking about that as an example. Right.
Right. And not to slam on lawyers, but like if one case is successful and we're talking about billions of dollars, I can fathom that many others would be like, well, shoot, like I can figure that out. I'm going to go after that. Like, let's make some money.
Correct. So that's the other thing. Like, I don't know why we're not talking about copycat lawsuits. It will absolutely happen. In other words, so Sitzer, Missouri, the smaller case, let's say it goes the way of the plaintiffs and they get a $6 billion judgment. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry with a law license, I guarantee will be trying to go out and find someone who sold a home in the last 5 years, and they will bring some lawsuit against some local MLS, some local broker. Like it's inevitable. It's going to happen. So I'm saying, why are we not talking about this? Why are we not even aware that this is a possibility?
Right. The only thing I have seen, which somebody was kind enough to send to me and send a full rebuttal as to why it's wrong, is that white paper on like the negative impact if commissions change, when it was done by 3 people that were connected with Fannie, Freddie, HUD groups, all of their assumptions of what can happen ignores the fact that I don't think it's going to be like this explosive, the seller is not allowed to pay the buyer's commission. It'll just be like the buyers asking the sellers to do it. And their whole white paper, I feel like kind of missed that point, and that's kind of how commissions are already paid, right? Like you're already essentially having the seller pay. At this point, the buyer's just negotiating their own rate with their agent and then asking the seller to pay to a degree, if that works out that way. I don't know.
Maybe, but so let's talk about that a little bit, right? Let's touch on that. What I've been saying for a while is post-apocalypse, right? I actually think buyer commissions completely disappear. Because for a very simple logical thing, if I'm a seller, I want to pay my agent a commission. Why? Because then the incentive of the agent is to get the price as high as possible, which is my incentive, right?
Right.
If I'm the buyer, though, isn't my incentive the exact opposite? I don't want to incentivize my agent to get the price high.
Right.
But if I'm paying a commission, then clearly my agent is now incentivized to get the price up. My incentive is actually to have my agent get the price low, right? Which means I either pay them a flat fee or a flat fee plus like bonus. In other words, like I'm going to pay you $100 an hour or $5,000 to represent me. And then for every dollar you save below list price, I'm going to pay you
a
bonus based on something like, I mean, that's the only logical sense, right?
Right.
So I think buyer commissions go away. Maybe not immediately, but over the long run, it just doesn't make sense for me that I, as a buyer, would go, hey, you know what, man? I'm going to pay you based on the price of the thing that I buy.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? I don't see
when I'm trying to buy it as low as possible. Yeah.
Right. Like I just don't see that. I see I'll pay you for saving me money. Right.
Right. And what'll be interesting to me is if that happens, an agent would have to prove they're worth their hourly rate. Right.
Correct.
And so an agent, although like years of experience doesn't necessarily mean you're amazing. But there was one agent on TikTok that was like, fine, I'll charge hourly. I'm going to charge $375 an hour.
Absolutely.
Like,
absolutely.
Oh my God.
No, here's the thing, like charge whatever you want, right? Because the market will tell you whether you're worth that or not.
Right. That's very good point.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that's totally fine. Like some agents, maybe they could charge $5,000 an hour. If you're worth it, somebody will pay you.
Right. But if you're not, you'll go out of business quickly.
Like it's same thing with lawyers, right? Lawyers, they have these billing rates, like some lawyers are like $1,500 an hour. I'm like, I'm not paying that, but somebody is, right? Otherwise you can't charge that. So but that's a whole different world, right? So this is why I think, and I'm personally, I don't know that the injunction, like you said, would be just this, we're going to allow you to pay the buyer agent. I don't know that that's true, because at the heart of these lawsuits is steering, right? Is the idea that buyer agents will not show, or they're going to talk shit about some house because it's not offering enough compensation. Well, if you allow sellers to pay the buyer agent, then steering still kind of remains in place. So I don't know what's going to happen. My personal take is I don't think it's going to be a weak injunction. And if it is, then I think the FTC will step in and ban the practice of sellers paying the buyer agent.
Right. It's interesting you talk about steering, because I swear NAR needs to have like a social media security person that specifically watches what agents say online, because I can't tell you how many of them, when this TikTok viral, I used your announcement about the case, and it got like 1 million views. And the amount of agents that were like, good luck, I just won't show the home if it's not going to pay me. And I'm like,
That's right.
So I'm screenshotting this stuff. Like they're probably going to delete this, but somebody might want to see this. Or like, but there's also consumers saying, I was told if I don't pay 2 or 3%, no one will show my home.
Right.
And then there's still agents out there. I got into a fight with one the other day. That's like, well, buyer agents are free. I'm like, you're not allowed to say that.
You're not allowed to say that.
That's not true. Like, come on. Like, I can't. Right. NAR, I can't be your like social media police. You got to get these people in check here. But it'll be interesting. But you're right. I think steering is probably the best way to explain why this is a big issue, right?
There's no question. And this entire case to me turns on steering, right? So what the defendants will claim is steering, if it happens, it's very minor, right? And it's already, and by the way, steering is against the code of ethics. And it's also illegal because you're a fiduciary of your buyer client. So if you steer, you're actually breaking the law and you're in breach of code of ethics. I think that's the argument. The issue is going to be, okay, fine. Is this like a 1 out of 1,000 agents doing it, right? Or is this 900 out of 1,000 agents doing it? If it's 1 out of 1,000, then I think the defendants win. Honestly, I do, right? Like if it's just a bad apple, very rare, we're already against it, right? Then I think, all right, then there's really not that big a problem. If on the other hand, if it's the vast majority of agents saying, no, if they're not paying me enough, I'm not showing that house, or I'll just make, it's like, hey, the house is haunted. You don't want to buy this house. As a buyer, how the hell am I supposed to know? I trust my agent. My agent tells me you don't want to buy this house. It's got all kinds of problems. How do I know?
Yeah, right? That they didn't tell the truth.
Right. So I do think as a result, the rules, post-apocalypse rules, whether it's done through court injunction or through like FTC regulation, will be sellers are not allowed to pay the buyer agent, period. Right. So now what the industry's come up with is, well, what you have to do is negotiate for as part of the purchase contract, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, okay, now you're in commercial real estate world. That's what commercial realtors do. And guess what? 9 out of 10 times commercial is like, why am I paying your agent? Like, pay your own agent.
Right. Right. And then you roll in what VA isn't allowed to pay commissions. They're not even allowed to pay the junk admin fee that's charged to them, which some of them agents have tried to do. Right. Thankful for lenders who catch that.
And as a general matter, you can't roll commissions into the buyer side commissions. You can't roll that into a mortgage.
Right. Do you think if this changes, do you think there'd be enough lobbying power for them to change that?
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, again, banks have no, like they're more than happy to make you loans, right? Yeah. Like I said, to me, the issue then becomes, as a buyer, do I want to incentivize my agent to get the price as high as possible? And I say no. Right. So they might roll it in, but it's like, look, I'm going to pay my buyer a flat fee or an hourly rate. Roll that in, please. Right. I'm certainly not going to be like, roll it in based on the price, the thing I just bought. Like that doesn't make any sense. At least not in the long run. Maybe your viewers differ. Like, no, I want to pay more. Like I want to incentivize my agent to get the price high.
It was interesting. I'll have to go back and pull it up, but I did a study on like if, I think it was like a 5% raise every year that real estate agents got based on how home values increased and the percentage they made, which is way more than most people make in their career.
Sure.
And listen, I don't have the right answers. And I hate that people on TikTok think I do and ask me, well, then what do you think should happen? Like, there are many other important people that should be advising what should happen other than me. But I do think looking at it as a percentage, regardless of how much time is spent, regardless of if I'm a cash buyer and I got in right away because of the fact that I'm a cash buyer, but yet still paying the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the other part of this, which rumor on the block is after these cases go through, how the MLS is looked at and who controls it would likely be the next big conversation. All right. So again, as if we were 5-year-olds, can you explain the relationship or what the MLS is in the relationship between NAR and the MLS groups? Because there's like 500 of them, 500 plus in the US. And I like to say they're like, so I like to say they're like BFFs and they do everything together is the best way I can explain it, but you can do it much better.
Yeah. I mean, basically the way to think about it is the NAR controls the vast majority of MLSs because the MLS is owned by local realtor associations. So they have to comply with NAR's rules, as it governs a realtor-owned MLS. There are some number of MLS that are broker-owned. They're not realtor-owned. So they don't have anything to do with that. And the big ones are like Seattle market has Northwest MLS, Boston has MLS PIN, Atlanta has First MLS, FMLS. Yes, there are some broker-owned MLSs that have nothing to do with NAR. The vast majority of MLSs are association-owned and therefore controlled by NAR. That's the relationship.
Right. And so for those who continue to think this, Zillow is not
an MLS. Correct.
They just pull. So is like majority of the homes.com, like all these places you're searching for homes, they just pull half or maybe a third of the data that's actually
all of it, actually. No, all of it.
Well, except
just
for like
all of it.
Private remarks, even though private remarks, I think should be. Anything related to commissions should be public, and it's not. Shoot, I forgot where we're headed for this.
So the MLS is the source for all the data that the portals use, right? I mean, that's so they're just a place where agents go enter listing information, and then it goes everywhere, else, right? So they're incredibly important. So that's the relationship. I can't remember the other question you were asking.
I don't know. Some people have mentioned that like an MLS should be run like the post office. So a government entity that isn't really made for profit, but is accessible for everybody, and is made for a function and not for maximum profitability.
Sure.
Which I don't know, but I know you have a different opinion, and you actually built something to kind of look at a different way MLS is. Yes. So explain what you did.
Well, let's get to that in a bit, right? The first comment I'll make is I would really like to talk to those people who think the government should run the MLS. Because I'm like, do you enjoy going to the DMV?
True.
Do you enjoy dealing with the government bureaucracy in any other area of your life? Because if you do, then I could understand why you would be pro-government run MLSs. I am not. I think it's very clear. I'm very much like an anarchist. The correct term is anarcho-capitalist. I think the government is like the worst possible entity to run anything. So no, I think that would be a terrible idea.
Right, but if the wrong person or wrong company, I don't know. I get the capitalistic side of it. But whoever holds the keys to those properties is the one that makes a ton of money. And if it ends up being Zillow, not that they would, but like a company like that, whose main mission is to make money off of your commissions, which would be really interesting if commissions change and go away. What does that do to Zillow's profits, which is probably a whole other conversation.
Correct.
Right.
So the first comment I have at that, and again, this is a precursor of what I'm talking about. I don't see how any existing MLS survives what's coming. Every MLS has been named as a co-conspirator, right? Or they're going to get copycat lawsuits. Okay, the damages are like in the billions.
Right.
I can't think of an MLS that could pay that. I just don't know what they do, right? Like the largest MLS in the country is California Regional, right? I don't think they could pay $100 million judgment, never mind $1 billion judgment. Like what do you do? So I don't actually see that. I don't know what happens after that.
Right. So where do we put our properties?
Somebody will arise, right? Something new will have to come about, that's not facing a $100 billion judgment.
Right. I guess my concern is that person coming about focused on the consumer or focused on keeping service providers and real estate agents in the key position? Like, I don't want to say gatekeeping, because that's not fair to say that, but who this will be built for, I think will be the biggest impact, right?
And what, right now, it's unclear, right? And to your point, like I do have a small startup that we're brand new, and we think we are offering something really cool, but it doesn't have to be like, maybe we don't make it, it could be somebody else. But if it's somebody else, I mean, there aren't that many companies like in the country that could actually do this, right? If you think about it, I mean, real estate and technology and large amounts of capital, we're talking like Zillow, CoStar, maybe Redfin, maybe Open Door. Do you know what I mean? Like, there aren't that many companies that actually have the amount of capital, the technology, whatever necessary. So, that's one possibility. The other would be something like what I'm trying to do. And, but again, this podcast is not about that. Right. All I'm saying is at a minimum, shouldn't we recognize like some of the things that are happening? Should we at least be like, oh, geez, that's a possible threat. Oh, is this something I need to prepare for? Right. And, throughout like most of my consulting work, I've always said, like, just because you're a prepper doesn't mean you want the thing you're prepping for to happen. Right. Like, I'm a prepper. Prepared. I have a bunch of water because I'm worried that power might go out. Doesn't mean I want the power to go out. I'm just saying if it does go out, at least I have some water. Shouldn't it be at least that? Like, shouldn't brokers, agents, MLS associates at least like prep and think about, hey, if this happens, are we prepared? Do we have enough food? Do we have enough water? Do we have enough whatever we need to keep things going? And the answer is no today. You got to figure something out. You got to at least start thinking about those things, and no one's doing that right now. That would be my biggest concern. Yeah.
It seems like, and again, this is just individual agents I talk to. None of us are lawyers. Sure. A lot of them are saying that this case won't go through because the consumer signed a contract agreeing to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how much weight do you think that has?
Zero.
In your we aren't involved opinion?
Zero. None.
Okay. Let's say I keep reading it and I'm like, well, you have that, but then you also have, I think about those Rex phone calls. Do you remember those of agents that pretty much told the Rex agent, like, well, yeah, you're not paying me. I won't show the client. Thank you. And hang up the phone. Like,
yeah, I heard about those, but there's a video that's available because the first company to do this was a company out of Denver called Trelora. Mm-hmm. And they were in the news. And I just found it. CBS 4. It's on YouTube. You could find this video where they have recordings of agents like cursing them out, saying, I'm not showing your house. We're realtors. We get 2.8%. And I'm like, guys, I don't know what to tell you, man. This is going to resurface during your trial.
Right.
That's all I can say.
Coming. Yeah, I have to go look that up. I didn't see that. Was this recently?
This was probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah. I'll see if I can dig up the link. I think I might have embedded it in one of my posts or something.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, honestly, if I were a lawyer in this case, I would just go on social media and find every post made about this case. And you could probably quickly see agents saying something they shouldn't. It probably does not work well for their case, which you would think NAR would at least be like, hey, please stop talking about X, Y, Z, or, like something. I mean, I'm not that big. I have almost 15,000 followers. I'm not that big. And I see it on the daily. So imagine someone that has better access saying this stuff in the public. I just can't.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah. No, it's going to happen. It's like, to me, I think the most logical response is, given what we know, if you're a broker, MLS, agent, association, you have to at least think that we're probably going to lose this case, right? So apocalypse will happen. And then the question, okay, now what, right? As agents, there's not a whole lot. Like, you're not going to get sued. You're not paying billions in damages. What you got to figure out is, all right, how do I get buyers to pay me? Like, that should be the thing you got to think about. If you're a broker, before you get to how do I get my agents paid by the buyer, your first thing is going to be, if I get sued for $6 billion, can I survive? And the answer is going to be no. So, like, what do I do? Like, that should be your first question.
Right. And I think what's important to remind people that are just sellers and buyers in general, the reason why agents individually aren't going to be charged is because your contract is actually with the brokerage when you're selling your home, essentially.
I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. There's state license law type stuff involved as well. And what sucks about it, of course, as brokers, you're not getting any money. Like, the brokerage, because the splits, the agent's the one who's taking home most of the money, but they're not on the hook because they're just a salesperson. You're the broker. So it's a terrible, terrible thing ahead of us. And I'm just like, at a minimum, somebody needs to be telling the industry, what's actually happening, like what they're facing, right? I wish I had a lot more hopeful, like, happy talk. I don't, unfortunately. But that's one of the things, like, we have a little too much happy talk, which means that people relax too much. It's not time for relaxing. This is time for, like, really thinking, like, what the hell do I do? Or
don't change behavior, or don't pay attention to what they're doing, or what
like
you
I said,
say and do can impact you.
Like I said, at a minimum, you got to embrace the prepper mindset, right? Like the crazy preppers on Netflix, whatever. Like, oh my God.
Do you have a whole bunker of food and cans and stuff?
I do not, but I do have 3 weeks of water and 3 months of food, which I think.
Well, you guys have water issues as it is, don't you?
Correct. So. But it's things like that, right? It doesn't mean that I think nuclear war is going to happen. It just means if something goes down, I'm ready for it.
Right.
And I think brokers, MLS, like the institutions, need to think, all right, not that I'm going to completely pivot and change, but what I think is going to happen, and I need to prepare for the contingency, right? I almost feel like you have to do that. If you're not, boy, that's I don't know, buying a house without fire insurance or home. Like, I don't even know. Like, it's just, you got to think of it as insurance. Right? So
if they want to join your webinar, which, listen, I don't normally promote anybody. Like, I've made this so clear on TikTok. Like, I will never promote a brokerage. I will never promote an agent because I never know. but I will promote you because
thank you. No, you know what? Don't even worry about promoting. Like I said, I think if you're a rank and file agent, this is not something for you to really be concerned about. Right? I certainly wouldn't come to my webinar because it's not cheap. I'm not cheap.
But if you're a broker,
if you're a broker, if you're an association leader, if you're an MLS executive, then this is something you might want to at least think about, or wait and see what other people say about it. I'm available. I'm on podcasts like this. So I think that's all I'm saying is just talk to people. Don't listen to all the happy talk and assume everything's fine. Everything is not fine. We're pretty effing far from fine. These are really things that you have to be concerned about.
Yeah. And you didn't let me finish complimenting you. What I was going to say, accept the compliment, please. You are one of the few people I think that is so close with the industry. You know what's going on. You're in those conversations, but you're incredibly realistic and you don't bullshit about how things go, which is what was in your bio, right? Like if you want a realistic strategy, not based on butterflies and kisses or whatever else you put in your bio, I don't remember, you're just very unbiased about it and you see all the sides. And so I think that's why it's important that,
I try.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, Wendy. I do try because I feel like, again, maybe it's my 12 years of consulting. But one of the things that I've always felt was if I'm a consultant that I'm being paid for my opinion, right, then I owe the client the truth as I see it. I could be wrong, right? I mean, I could be wrong and my facts could be wrong and I'm happy to be wrong. What I'm not going to do is blow smoke up somebody's ass because that doesn't help anybody. And
nothing changes.
Nothing changes and they don't no, to me, that's really just the wrong thing to do. Like I said, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I'm not going to BS anybody because that doesn't help me. It doesn't help them. It doesn't do anything. So,
All right. What else? What did we miss? I feel like we covered most of it.
I think let's talk about my little startup at the next one. Right.
Okay.
Because it's kind of connected, but it's not, and I don't want this to be like seen as a promotional thing. Like that's not the purpose of this. That's not why I came on.
Right. No, right.
It really is just learn the industry. There's stuff happening. You need to get past the happy talk. You need to really dig into the truth of what we are facing as an industry, and it's not, everything's going to be fine. I just don't see it. Not right now. Right. And these agents with their, Facebook law degrees saying like, well, the seller signed the contract. Like this has nothing to do with that. This has to do with the Sherman Antitrust Act, which is a whole separate thing. I'm not an antitrust expert. You certainly aren't. Like, so let's just, investigate. Go talk to people is all I would say. And say, hey, Rob, you are completely wrong because it turns out I talked to this expert who's an antitrust expert. He said, you are completely wrong. Cool. I'd be happy to be wrong. At least I got you to do the investigation. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm glad we did this. And we'll do another one where we can talk about MLSs. Yeah. I have a ton of things I could bitch about. So I could send you categories that you could shed some light on, like admin fees are my favorite.
Maybe I'll have you on my podcast because then I could promote myself because it's my podcast, right? And then it's
I'm just
you and your people.
I'm awful at promoting myself. I'm so bad.
Look, I think so I'll leave with this, right? I think the future after all this said and done is technology is advanced. And this is why I started Decentre I think the way to go forward is open, transparent auctions. I think that benefits everybody. And that way we get around so many of the issues that these commission lawsuits are bringing up, right? Because all these commission lawsuits are really about practices that the industry kind of grew up organically over 100 years.
Right.
It's like, but the technology's gone past that. We have a better way, and so maybe that's something we could talk about at our next time.
Have a story or a question you want to share? Hit us up at therealestatereplay.com.